What is up, my friends, and welcome to the PHLY Phillies podcast, an emergency podcast. And as always, our PHLY Phillies podcasts are brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Did not think we would be doing something like this at all while the game was going on, let alone to the magnitude of this emergency podcast, because the Phillies have their closer. In the middle of the game, starts hearing some rumblings. Phillies linked to Jhoan Duran. Kind of expected them to be linked to Jhoan Duran. Expected them to be linked to quite a few high leverage bullpen arms. But I have never been more happy to be proven wrong, because just a few hours ago on the PHLY Phillies podcast, I said I think what the expectations are going to be and what they end up doing could be vastly different. And my thought was they have the firepower, the ability. Their farm system has gotten better and better and better over the last couple of years. They have the capacity to make a big move if they wanted to. Now, the question was going to be, how many of these prospects and which prospects were Dave Dombrowski going to kind of hold closely to the vest and end up losing out on big-time players and big-time closers because of the fact that he ends up not wanting to give away too many players in the farm. Turns out I only needed a couple extra hours to be proven wrong, because they end up getting Jhoan Duran from the Minnesota Twins. And here's the exchange. Here's the return. The Phillies give up their top catching prospect, Eduardo Tait, and Mick Abel as well in the deal. So we're going to talk about Duran first, and then we'll talk about the return. We'll talk more about what this could be and what this could lead to in the next 24 hours or so as well, because I think for a lot of people, the Phillies still do need to look into acquiring another bat. But the exciting part about this is that the Phillies have their closer. And if you've heard me talk on the PHLY Phillies podcast at length before about the way that the Phillies bullpen is structured, I've always talked about the Phillies do well with high leverage roles, but not having a definitive role, whether it be closer, setup guy, middle relief. What Rob Thompson has done for quite some time is get outs when outs are needed. So whether it's 3 outs in the 7th or it's a big out in the 8th, he's using his high leverage relievers when he needs to do that. And that's worked for him throughout his tenure, because they've had a couple of different high leverage relievers that he trusted, whether it be the year they went to the World Series, he trusted Alvarado, David Robertson, he trusted Sir Anthony Dominguez that year, or in more recent years where he trusted Jeff Hoffman and Carlos Estevez, he trusted Orion Kerkering. And this year, when they went into the season, there was a feel of they're an arm short. And then they went into the Jose Alvarado suspension saying, you're 2 arms short. So the reality was, even with the signing of David Robertson, they were still very likely going to have to go get another arm. Now, I did not think it was going to be to this capacity, but now I flip that thought process on its head about high leverage, and I talk about the team having an elite closer. The Phillies have not had an elite closer. I think if we're being conservative, you can say probably since Jonathan Papelbon was the last time the Phillies had an elite closer, but now they have an elite closer on their roster and heading into the postseason in Jhoan Duran. There is no question who is going to be pitching the 9th inning of games for the Phillies. It's Jhoan Duran. Now let's talk about Duran's season for just a little bit. Another great season, and perhaps his best season in terms of ERA so far this year. 6-4 over 49 appearances, a 2.01 ERA, which would be the best in a single season of his career. Just 16 saves this year. The Twins it's been a really weird year for the Twins. They ended up going on a 13 or 14 game winning streak back in May, and yet they still find themselves kind of treading water and heading in the direction of being sellers. There was talk about Duran. There was talk about Jax. There was talk about Joe Ryan. There was talk about some of the expiring players like Harrison Bader or Willie Castro. Now, my thought had always been, I don't think they move both Duran and Jax, and I felt like the likelier scenario where teams were going to be interested in acquiring Duran, but that they were going to be more likely to get Jax because of what the cost was going to be. Jhoan Duran is a power pitcher. I have talked about Duran for 2 or 3 years now on this show. I guess 2 years since we've started. Jhoan Duran features, to me, one of the 5 best individual pitches in all of baseball. When I look around Major League Baseball and the landscape of the league, and I think about an individual pitch, I think about Kodai Senga's forkball. I think about like a Paul Skeens type of fastball, right? The two-seamer with movement, the run that he gets. I think about these elite level pitches, and Jhoan Duran's splitter is in that conversation. There's no question about it. This is his best pitch. Now, he is a power pitcher, power fastball, averages 100.2 on his fastball, but the splitter is without question Jhoan Duran's best pitch. He has 53 strikeouts over 49 and a third innings. His whip throughout the last 3 seasons has been unbelievably consistent, between 1.14 and 1.18 over the last 3 seasons, since he's kind of become cemented as the Twins closer. Strikeout rates this year are a little bit down compared to where they were last year, but when you say a little bit down, you're talking about 26% and in the 73rd percentile of baseball, as opposed to 29% and in the 88th percentile of baseball. What he does well is pretty much everything. Heavy fastball, power splitter, keeps the ball down, 99th percentile of ground ball rate, which you would expect with a splitter that works as well as he does. He gets a 66% ground ball rate. He doesn't get barreled. He generates a lot of swing and miss. He generates a lot of chase, and all of the expected numbers match up exactly with what the real life numbers tell you. And it goes to show you over the last 3 years that this has been one of the most consistent back end of the bullpen pitchers across all of Major League Baseball. As I said, two main pitches. He also features the knuckle curve in there. We'll mix in a sweeper from time to time. But 288 splitters this year, 261 four seams make up for about 72% of the pitches that he's thrown this year, with a 21% with the knuckle curve and like 7 with the sweeper. The thing that I love about Jhoan Duran's splitter, and I could talk all day about it, is that when you have a righty who throws a splitter, a lot of times you're using it against lefties. Or if you have a lefty who throws a splitter, a lot of times you're using it against righties. Not with Jhoan Duran. He throws it against both sides of the plate, and opponents are hitting just 221 off of it. He's getting 27% whiff. He's using it as his put-away pitch almost 22 times. He's given up just 1 home run this season. Now, it has come on the splitter, but he's only given up just 1 home run this year over the course of his first 49 appearances. This is the type of closer that you acquire in MLB The Show. This is the guy that you get when your team is constructed and you need a back end of the bullpen type of guy. Not only is he, to me, one of the elite level closers in the game, and not only is, to me, he one of the elite level pitches, but he also still has team control for 2 more years. This is a move that makes an enormous amount of sense for the Phillies. They have struggled with the bullpen all season long, especially in the acquisition of Jordan Romano, who was set to be the closer. He's been wildly underwhelming. Losing Jose Alvarado, this move to me makes an enormous amount of sense. Now, let's talk about the return that the Twins are going to receive. If you've heard me on this show in weeks past, you've heard me talk about how much I value Eduardo Tait. I think Eduardo Tait is going to be a major league hitter. I don't necessarily know if that means he's going to be a major league catcher. His defense still could use some work. He's only 19 years old, but they were fast tracking him through the minor leagues because they valued his bat, especially knowing the timetable is finite with JT Realmuto, whether he's back next year or not. They know the timetable was pretty finite. I value Eduardo Tait a lot, and I think he's going to be a very, very good major league hitter. The pop is there at 19, good bat to ball skills. The strikeout numbers are heading in the right direction. His hard hit rates are good. When you watch him play, the ball explodes off of Eduardo Tait's bat when he hits the ball hard. With that being said, I do think for the way the Phillies were viewing this is that Eduardo Tait's still probably another 2 to 3 years away from being a major league, probably about 2 years away from being a major league ready hitter, and maybe 3 or 4 years away from being a major league ready catcher. He's the big haul in exchange. Getting Mick Abel, I think, allows the Twins to get a major league ready pitcher. He's made major league appearances this year, varying levels of success, but he has pitched in the big leagues, and I think they view him as somebody who, if he's not going to come up right away and pitch in the bigs for Minnesota, he'll be back up by the end of the season, and he'll be in their rotation probably to begin next year as well. So that, to me, Mick Abel always felt like the launching point for a lot of trades. And I said that for the last couple of weeks because he's made major league appearances and because the stuff is good. Now, the command issues started to kind of rear their ugly head a little bit in his last start against San Diego, but for the most part, he's been pretty good with his command this season. And when he went back down to AAA over his last couple of starts, he's been really good there as well. Now, whether he turns out to be a middle of the rotation guy, a front of the rotation guy, still yet to be seen. But I think the Twins are viewing him as a pretty immediate plug and play major league starter. So they get the elite level catching prospect in exchange in Eduardo Tait, and they get somebody who can pitch for them. Whether it's out of the bullpen, probably going to be more of a starter role. I would imagine he'll just kind of slide pretty seamlessly in the starter role, in a starter role for the Twins. I think this is a good return for the Twins. I thought they were going to get a lot more. And that was why I kind of balked at the idea of the Phillies being able to step up with the big dogs of the farm system world. Not because the Phillies farm system is bad. It still has some ways to go, but it's gotten much better over the last couple of years. But I was looking at a team like the LA Dodgers, who have been crushed by injury, especially in their bullpen, to the point where they went out and acquired Alexis Diaz, who was not good at all for the Cincinnati Reds to begin the year. Seems to be maybe a little bit in a better headspace for the Dodgers. But Tanner Scott's been injured. They've had a multitude of injuries across both their starting rotation and their bullpen. Seems to be a common theme with the Dodgers over their last couple of seasons is pitching injuries mounting. But I thought when you take a look at some of the farm systems around baseball, because of what I expected the return for Jhoan Duran to be, because of what I expected, because of what the Twins ownership group had said, they were asking for like 2 top 100 caliber players. I expected teams like the Dodgers to be the teams that would be able to outbid the Phillies. And I said on the show, I really did expect the Dodgers to be the team that ended up acquiring Jhoan Duran if he was the Twins reliever that was going to get moved. I love Eduardo Tait. I do. I think the kid's going to be a very, very good player. This is a good move for the Phillies, and they should not be done. I still believe they should go out and try to figure out how they can acquire another bat within reason now, of course. But I think we asked when they signed David Robertson, what's next? What is going to be the next move that the team is going to make that is going to bolster the bullpen? This is it. This is the move. We talked about David Robertson being a move. This is the move. This is the move that bolsters the bullpen to make them as complete as they possibly can be. This is, and maybe they go acquire another arm. I'm not going to say they're entirely done in the bullpen, but if you're talking about the move versus a move, the next move, if they do get another arm, will be a move. I don't think it's going to be another the type of move, but the Phillies got better today. There's no question about it. They paid a steep price, giving up Eduardo Tait. Mick Abel, best wishes. He could become a good middle of the rotation type of starter. We've seen some good from him. We've seen some bad over his, farm system tenure with the Phillies. But best wishes to those guys. This is a good move for the Phillies. I mean, there's no two ways about it. This is a really, really good move for the Phillies. Last year, we talked about the Phillies acquiring Carlos Estevez and it being a good move to bolster a bullpen that needed another arm. We talked about in the past how the Phillies have acquired some bullpen arms like Estevez. They went and got Ian Kennedy a few years ago. This is the elite move. This is the move that we were expecting Dave Dombrowski to make for a couple of seasons now. This is the move that Dave Dombrowski has made in each of his previous stops as GMs and president of baseball operations of other organizations. This is the move that acquires a legit, bona fide, lockdown closer for the first time in a really, really long time for the Phillies. If you ask me how many closers are better than Jhoan Duran across baseball, I don't believe I can come up with more than one hand's worth. This is an elite level move. And I think they're not done just yet, but this is a move that tells me the Phillies are very serious about being contenders this year because of the fact that the NL is pretty wide open. The Dodgers have injuries. The Cubs have starting pitching concerns. The Mets have back end of their lineup type of question marks. This is the move that tells me Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies are very, very serious. And I think there's probably one more to come. And whether that be an outfielder, another reliever, I do believe that the Phillies are not done quite just yet. I have not been more excited to be proven wrong about something that I said on a show less than 3 hours ago or 5 hours ago or whatever it was than I am right now. And you can see it in the chat. And hello to everybody. Thank you so much for being a part of this. This is awesome. You can see it in the chat. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of talking about Eduardo Tait and saying, he's going to be a good player. And I can't stress enough that I am a huge Eduardo Tait fan. And I think he's going to be a really good major league hitter. And whether that means he's a DH or he does become an everyday catcher, or maybe he gets shifted to like a first base type of thing, I think he's going to be a really good major league hitter. He is still probably 2 or 3 years away from being close to being ready. And if the Phillies believe their window is 2 or 3 years away, then this is a move that Dave Dombrowski prioritized. And they did not give up Andrew Painter. They did not give up Aiden Miller. They did not give up Aaron Escobar. They did not give up any of their 2 most recent first-round picks, not Gage Wood, talking about the 2 guys before that, in Dante Nuri and Griffin Burkholder. I think the Phillies still have ammunition to make another move. And while losing Eduardo Tait hurt, this was a huge, huge acquisition for the Phillies bullpen, because now when you start to structure the bullpen, as I talked about, Duran is your bona fide closer. There's no questions asked. Now you can start to use Orion Kerkering where he probably should be, 7th and 8th inning guy. Matt Strahm where he should be, 7th and 8th inning guy. Tanner Banks where he should be, 6th and 7th inning guy. David Robertson where he should be, 6th or 7th inning guy when he comes in and he joins the bullpen. You now should, if David Robertson is a guy that you trust, you now should feel good about 5 relievers in the Phillies bullpen, which before 2 weeks ago, it was probably 2.5 or 3, depending on how you felt about Tanner Banks. I'm sure you can probably hear it. And by the way, somebody brings it up in the chat. Like, I think Max Lazar's done a really nice job. Now Lazar gets to be low leverage situation guy who's pitched really well this year since being called up in, late May, early June. He's looked pretty good. His ERA now is below 3 in his 21 appearances. The big news, of course, is Duran joins the club. The bigger news is the Phillies have Jhoan Duran for the next 2.5 seasons. 2 years of arbitration left before he becomes an unrestricted free agent. You're talking about now getting into the 2028 season where Zach Wheeler said he's going to retire, where Ranger Suarez may or may not be a Philly, where Jesus Luzardo may or may not be a Philly, where half of the lineup may or may not be Phillies. Schwarber, Real Muto, Castellanos, Bohm. You could even throw guys like the younger guys like a Stott and a Marsh type. I shouldn't say younger, but the young-ish guys, Stott and Marsh in that group. This tells me the Phillies know their window is finite and they're going to go for broke at least in one big move. Let's see what else happens. But I'm so freaking excited about this move. You don't hear me get like really animated a lot because I like to do this kind of objectively and talk about it from an objective lens. But at the end of the day, like, we're all Phillies fans here, and this is a really, really good move. They get one more bat. This team can find itself in a spot where it believes it can be a major player in the postseason. All right, that's going to do it for our emergency podcast today. Huge thank you to everybody that was in the chat and everybody that was watching today's episode. 305 of you are here right now. I can't thank you enough for being a part of this. Everybody that's in the chat, and I know they changed the names back to ats. I don't know your ats as much as I know your names, right? But I cannot thank you enough for all of you being a part of it. We'll be back tomorrow for the trade deadline special. We'll talk more about this with Andrew Frazier and with Rich Hoffman. We'll be live from 5 until 7. If something else happens between now and then, we'll of course do another emergency podcast. But I look forward to talking to you on the trade deadline special tomorrow at 5 o'clock. I can't wait to hear what Anthony Gargano has to say about this. The good morning, everybody's just going to hit a little bit different tomorrow at 9 o'clock. If you don't mind, hit that like button on the way out. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscription button as well. It takes a couple of seconds. It's free, and it really helps us out in our algorithm and things like that. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. A big thank you to both Ethan Hartley and Andrew Frazier for continually being on the clock for the next 24 hours or so as we get you through the trade deadline. Cannot wait to have this conversation with Rich tomorrow. and talk to you all again. So we'll be back again 5 o'clock tomorrow on the PHLY Phillies podcast, trade deadline special. And until that time, enjoy the rest of tonight's game, Phillies and the White Sox, and enjoy the fact that Jhoan Duran is a member of the Phillies. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.